I am Ria Flanagan, and welcome to the Happiness Playbook series. I'm so glad you're here to join me and, um, you know, being transparent in my journey, just, marketing my book and then starting this podcast for all of you. And really also, for me too, because I'm really enjoying connecting and sending out things that you guys can benefit from. And some pieces and tips from my book and techniques and practices, daily practices to increase happiness levels. In my practice, treating trauma and addiction, when someone stops using a substance or a process addiction, there's grief about it because that was something that was helping them, even though it was also hindering them. It was something they were using. It was part of their life, the people that were in their life. I was speaking to somebody the other day about it being a very social disease addiction, and it is until it isn't, until the person is isolating and using it. But there's grief about change. So even if we're getting into a new job or we're moving to a new place or starting a new relationship, there's grief about what life was before that. And even being a wife and a mother, and sometimes I have grief about not having any alone time. I'm either working or producing or parenting or seeing clients or doing my doctorate. And there's so many things. So there's this piece of taking these moments to feel the feelings and to process what is coming up. And sometimes it's that global grief, right? Or a global fear, or going through a pandemic recently, or just noticing that, we all are connected. And, when we see that through social media, we see that through media. And we're also very influenced by what we're taking in. So when we are, in election year, people are getting very emotional. The debates are very, intense. There's always this sort of feeling of a bullying that goes on. And I think there's just, if we get pulled in, how can we be more of a part of the solution, not letting ourselves get pulled in emotionally to other people's battles, and going, okay, how can I be proactive, part of the solution, not let people manipulate me through my emotions. It can be very powerful, right? We've talked about boundaries, having that boundary, not taking things in too much. But today, waking up and noticing my own emotional state. I do lots of little things. I love these cards, the wisdom cards by Louise Hay. I'm not selling them. I'm just sharing this, something that I love to do. I used to do it with my groups, and just what's coming up. It's taking a moment. It's mindful. And today I am perfect exactly as I am. So, remembering that all our emotions are part of who we are. When we talk about increasing happiness, we're not talking about ignoring all the other emotions, because we're not one dimensional, and we'll just be fully human and embrace who we are. We feel all the feelings. It's relatable. We don't want to walk around being like, hey, I'm happy all the time. Yeah. Because usually we're stuffing if that's the case. And somebody that's doing that or acting as if, I do everything perfectly. No, we don't. And part of this, I'm perfect exactly as I am, is that with all the imperfections, with all the feelings, with all of it, and the back of the card says, if I wait until I become perfect before I love myself, I will waste my whole life. I am already perfect right here and right now. And so even, having one of those days where I felt like, oh, I was late for an appointment, just dropping the ball and realizing, okay, I got to pull back today. Maybe I got to kind of look at, am I trying to do too much? What needs to change? Sometimes sadness can be, I'm not making enough time for my self-care again, and having these days where I'm not going to beat myself up for that. We're great where we are in this part of the journey. And so being able to go, okay, how can I find solutions so that I'm making enough time, that I'm not running too hard, too fast, really looking at what do I need, and also being okay with where I am, that this will pass. This will pass. The sadness will pass. There's a new day. Life does this. It goes up, it goes down. How do we manage the downs? Not beating ourselves up is one way, going, okay, did the best I could today. And taking the time to feel the feelings, the emotions, the grief, looking at how that we're all connected, that when we reach out, asking for help, not trying to do it alone, joining a group, becoming part of a community, giving back. I mean, there's so many ways to not stay stuck in anything. So it's processing the emotion, it's getting the gifts, it's getting out of stuckness too, that if I didn't sleep too well today, we talked about that, I can, wake up tomorrow and I can start fresh, or go to bed earlier, or what do I need to do? I need to change my sleep routine, turn off the TV and read a book before bed, not touch the phone, really talking about sleep hygiene and looking at, how do I set myself up for a good night's sleep? If I'm listening to crime stories before bed and then having nightmares, that's probably a problem. We need to change that. And so really thinking about the intake of what we're taking in our day-to-day lives, like what kind of music we're listening to, what and how does that emotionally feed us? And are we getting into sadness, or are we getting into activation and then trying to go to sleep, and then that brings up maybe nightmares or waking up in the middle of the night. So being really careful with what we're letting into our minds, into our life. I've talked about like toxic behaviors a lot in my career. Where I work with sex addiction, and with that comes a lot of betrayal. And also with addiction, there's a lot of betrayal. And so really, how does one even forgive themselves? So there's this piece of looking at self-forgiveness is really the first piece that anyone coming out of acting out behavior has to address. Because if they're not going to forgive themselves, it's going to be difficult for them to stay in recovery and all that. And even in life, like really looking at where are we, beating ourselves up or feeling like we're not good enough or we're failing or any of those kind of things, and noticing those cognitive distortions, often from trauma. And how do we really get, move those out so that we really believe we're enough? We really believe that just because we make mistakes, we're not failures, that our mistakes teach us, right? The mistakes are our teachers. They teach us, that our feelings are there to give us gifts, even the hard ones. When we start realizing that this, I'm right where I need to be, I'm enough, all of these things start to shift. So when we're feeling better about ourselves, we also project a world that's better to live in. Right. And when we believe that things will work out, and when we have faith in things like that, things tend to work out better, and we're looking for the light instead of the dark. So again, what am I feeding myself? Am I feeding myself thoughts and messages that end up really not serving me? So asking the question, does this serve me to believe this? Does this serve me to believe that things always go poorly, or I'm never gonna, reach my goals, or I'm a failure? Does that serve me? No, that really doesn't. I end up feeling really terrible. What serves me better is to believe, mistakes are part of growth. I wouldn't have written a book or started a practice or a YouTube podcast if I let mistakes stop me. Normalizing them. It's any business. They have to look at, what can we do better? What worked? What didn't work? How can we make changes? And this is really crucial, I think, with anything, is that how we are about when things go wrong, how we are, how are we being, how are we reacting? And some of that is working on our nervous system, not being in high reactivity all the time. If we are, why is that? Addressing the source of that. Is that something you've always, that's just, you sort of relate, well, that's just who I am. That's something that you can work on and shift using meditation, mindfulness. It's empowering practices to help you harness, I don't want to, life to control me by what happens. I want to have more control of my reactivity, patience, taking deep breaths, affirmations. And I love these affirmation cards. I love having things like that around me. Some people will put up sticky notes with affirmations or different things on their mirror in the morning, doing 500 affirmations a day. And especially if feeling like you're not enough, maybe it's I am enough, or I'm worthy, or I'm valuable, but really starting to fight back on those negative beliefs, because they don't serve you. They're not helping you. And it may be a habit. It may be something that you just feel like, oh, it's a part of me, but a belief system can be changed. I don't believe in the Easter Bunny anymore. It's one of those things. Yes, I can change. I can change a belief, and so really looking at what are the beliefs that serve you, and what beliefs are you carrying around like old stinky baggage that you need to get rid of. And that's really empowering to know that, oh, I can start shifting things. I can start to get mindful about what stories I'm running in my head, what beliefs I'm running in my head, and are they really true? Most of the time, no. If it's negative, if it's not serving you, what do I need to do to change that? Making those changes, taking action steps, looking at what are my goals? What do I want in my life? And have to let go of those things that don't serve me. And sometimes it's people, sometimes it's behavior. It might be, I always stuff my feelings, and that worked until it didn't. And now I'm learning that if I want to get to the next level of my life, not just survive, but really thrive, I've got to start understanding and listening to my intuition, my emotions, my, like being more present and nurturing, reparenting the self, nurturing, affirming, setting healthy limits. I love to eat some chips, but if I eat the whole bag, I'm probably not going to feel so good, right? Moderation in things. It's finding ways to be in the world without being the calm in the storm, finding that peace within so we can have more happiness, so we can enjoy life more. If I'm able to feel the hard feelings, I'm able to actually expand and be even more present in the happiness and the joy and my passion, because I'm also able to weather the storm. And so there's this window of tolerance that we're creating to even feel more happiness. We're embracing and opening up to more happiness when we're able to feel all the feelings and process them and get the lessons and maturity. Emotional intelligence is a big buzzword in organizations, and really looking at why is that? Because leaders that have emotional intelligence are people feel safer with, they feel connected to, they feel they can relate to. And leadership and in different areas of your life, that expansion and paying attention and mindfulness around the emotions is such a practice that really can improve and the quality of your life and help increase happiness. Because when we're feeling the other feelings, we're also more in tune to the happiness. And then when we're there, we can really go, wow, this feels really good. Let me really take this in. Let me just really be in this moment and appreciate it and have gratitude about it. Now we're expanding that. We're in the joy and I'm even grateful that I'm in the joy right now. Really taking the time to be more present. I'm grateful you're here joining me. I am so grateful to give you tidbits, nuggets, pieces from the Happiness is an Inside Job playbook. Building on the Happiness Playbook series, I am now really looking at happiness in relationship and how, it does start with us and doing our own personal work, but then how to bring in people that we're going to have a more joyful relationship with. It's a big piece of also assessing, has this person done their work? And am I looking for someone to fill something within me? Or am I just enjoying them? Because we can't fix another person. We can't, if somebody is love bombing and we want that and, oh, that makes me feel good, but why are they doing that? You got to look at these things. People can enter into relationships under a mask of fantasy or high expectations, or both people are portraying their best selves, but don't really know each other. There's a lot of misconceptions in the beginning when people are dating. In my next book, we're going to focus on that, on when am I ready to go out into the dating world? What are ways to keep myself safe? Healthy intimacy and how that feels so different. Or trying to use someone to feel good, or, projecting that that's the answer. That's going to solve everything, because life is not a fairy tale. A lot of us, my generation, were definitely brought up with the Cinderella story. Oh, we're just going to the fairy godmother, and then we're going to ride off in the sunset happily ever after. Life isn't like that. There's ups and downs. Relationships can be challenging. They can be mirrors, and that's not a bad thing. It's starting to notice that having conflict in relationship is normal, but how do you deal with it? Reactivity. How do I manage and deal with conflict? How am I modeling leadership in that and in my own life and in my relationships? Really starting to look at what is a healthy relationship? And if we didn't have parents that modeled that for us, a child of divorce, where to look, friends, families, maybe. And, I was trying to figure that out. Then I got this, not doing the Stepford Wife. I have it all figured out. I'm happy all the time. Everything's great. No, it's a process. It's being in the moment. It's what's the journey? What's the challenge today? How are we managing it? How can we grow together rather than grow apart? How can we stay in intimacy rather than get in the shuffle of children and life and kind of lost in that? And I think that happens a lot. Nobody goes into a marriage planning for a divorce. So it's really looking at, where can I stay tuned in, stay present, continue to meet the challenges and address them and name them and work together. And so really looking at all the different parts of happiness in relationships. So not even just in marriage, but also in friendship and also in work relationships and collaborations with others, and really working on, what do I bring to the table? What is my part? Because that's what we have control over. We have boundaries, and we can, say, hey, that doesn't work for me. We can't make anybody do anything. So starting to realize, who we bring into our lives is, you want to be very mindful about that and very intentional. a lot of things from my book that it will integrate into the next book, but focus on relationships. I want to hear from you. And so it's so important, this platform. I'm doing these YouTube podcasts and now I'm on Spotify, but to reach other people, because I want the feedback too of what people want to know. So I'm researching in my PsyD, doing a health and wellness psychology PsyD. And in this program, again, I'm focusing on research on my next phase in relationships. And so I want to know what you guys want to know. And that way I can really focus in for this next book and to bring not just what I think is useful, but really what people that are tuning in. So you guys are so important. I want to hear from you. You can drop comments, just what you're interested in. I'm interested to know what you're interested in. So thank you again. I'm super grateful you're here. I really enjoy meeting with you and doing this work. So yeah, pay it forward, feel your feelings. Happiness, it's an inside job, but we're here together as community, so it doesn't mean we have to figure it out alone. So again, here for you. Tune in. Thank you so much.